Well, this is overdue. I mean, I said up front that I didn't expect this to come out last year, but second video of the new year ought to be good enough, right? Anyways, during this past list season, I hit 1,666 subscribers, which, damn, that's a lot. Thanks, y'all. This sub-special slash grab bag was a bit different from last time, since I let viewers pick one and only one song to request, and every single song was considered. So now it's time to rank them. Using my usual scale, though, as ever, it barely matters. Though, I admittedly wasn't expecting to get quite as many submissions as I did. So I cut the main ranking down to just the 50 songs I personally found most interesting to talk about, with a few songs being scrapped outright for reasons I don't feel like getting into. And as for the rest, well, we're gonna blow through them right now in alphabetical order. This kind of lumpy, watery dance track was never gonna be my jam to begin with, but the addition of a language barrier just made it that much more unpalatable. NBs will literally find some vibey guitar and drum loops and sing at best half decently over them through a weird flimsy vocal filter for 2 minutes and then leave. Just no real substance to this.
Never take a L no more.
Sampling one of the most iconic memes of all time already comes off as really smug and self-satisfied, but if you're gonna do that, you gotta at least do something to make it worth returning to over the original, and this doesn't come anywhere close to passing that test. Screw that guy though.
You can't believe that you're still here.
Yep, this sure is a song. The only thing I know about Odrick shows is that Raukau was on one of the first ones way back in 2012, and that's as much as I care to know. Oh, this is just friggin' amateur hour now. The vocals already sound bad enough, but the production is just really messy and cluttered, a pileup of sounds that all clash with each other and the vocals. Just plain sucks. Send this back to obscurity where it belongs.
I'm sorry, boys, about the dirty night club.
Songs that sound like show tunes despite not being for musical is one of the absolute least interesting genres of music to me. I am not a theater kid, y'all. Such a bog standard synth alt metal song that it made me include another song in the same vein solely as an apology for originally dismissing it. More on that later. Props on finding a track from Daft Punk's Discovery that I haven't heard, but I get the feeling I haven't heard it because it's just very mid. Weak groove, okay vocals, no real good hook, it's just kinda there. Weezer ruined an entire generation of men. It is really hard to make a sub 2 minute song that feels complete, and this one's just, well, copy and paste everything I said about Baby You're Too Nice here, basically. Also, Icarus and Sisyphus are completely unrelated myths, my dude. Say what you will about Disney Channel teen idols, but at least they tend to eventually sound like real music. On the other hand, these Nickelodeon brand plastic toys just sound like DNC found a Bluebeat bass synth in their parents' attic. Listening to this makes me feel like a billionaire is stealing directly from my bank account. Perfectly solid dance jam that's completely devoid of personality and not groovy enough to get me moving either. I'm not sure why I'd ever choose to listen to it.
John's got brewer's brew, he gets intimidated by the dirty.
One of my pet peeves is just rambly spoken word. Guys just going on. I don't ever like that in my music. Please keep it out of my music. Rhythm Heaven is cool, but I just don't know what you get from listening to this that's out of the context of the game. It's a medley, it's an incoherent mess of musical ideas because it has to be. Like, we all agree this is basically a year-end hit, right? Does it even count? Never been a huge Clean Bandit fan, but this is fine enough. Like, it takes a bit too long to get going, isn't that exciting when it gets there, has one good hook, it beats into the ground, Not sure what you want me to do with an out-of-context song from a cartoon I've not only never watched, but I've never even heard of. Sounds like epic movie music, but with lyrics, basically. Probably kills in context, but again, I wouldn't know. Covers especially need to put their own spin on a song to be interesting, and this is literally just the exact same song but with English vocals. Like, yeah, pretty good tune, but I'd rather just listen to the original, request that next time. Completely fine lo-fi hip-hop beats to study and relax to, but the motifs and grooves are really basic. Like, the fundamentals are there, but it lacks flavor. You know, when I made the Wonderwall joke in my last sub-special, I wasn't being serious, y'all. And I know it's not just me here because that mashup already exists. Several times over.
So I'm all across the ocean blue.
Please request the original next time. It's really good. This note-for-note cover, however, just shows the difference between a professional singer and an actress singing. Brandi Carlile is so much better at this. Still good, but a very pointless cover. Turns out that when you take away the fun synths from Eurodance, what you're left with is basically nothing. I don't hear the Dragostea Dente flip at all in this either. Meh.
What's he building in there?
I appreciate the boldness in requesting this, but I only review songs, not spoken word poetry set to ambient soundscapes. This is just completely outside of my field of expertise. Even the resident Tom Waits stan was baffled by this pick. Subscribe to Liz at G, by the way.
What am I supposed to do?
I found this intriguing at first, and it was originally in the ranking, but there's not really much to it, and I ended up swapping it out for a different song. Oops. Fun enough though, yeah. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get to the ranking proper. Worst to best, starting with the worst. Last time, the bottom of the ranking was one of the worst songs I'd ever heard on a purely lyrical level, and I went on a way too angry rant tearing it to shreds and pissed off everyone in the process. This time, the bottom of the ranking is merely one of the worst songs I've ever heard on a purely sonic level, and it's only here because I really want to take some cheap shots at it.
1,000 thoughts for 1,000 times I've left in sheets with it all on my mind.
Not gonna beat around the bush, this is straight up one of the worst vocal performances I've ever heard. Her singing voice is not inherently bad, albeit slathered in so much reverb it's hard to tell for sure, but I don't think she hits a single high note in the entire song. Every attempt at one feels like having a drill shoved in my ears, and there's barely much of a tune to it anyways. Just freeform flailing, desperately trying to find a melody, and ending up with this directionless sludge. Oh, but the fun doesn't stop there. I'll gladly admit that I'm not very knowledgeable about this brand of glitchy IDM, but like, this can't be a good example of it, right? Right? I mean, this is literally just the Crazy Bus theme. Oh, but the fun doesn't stop there.
The Deuce Monster.
And the beaver, ugly monster.
How's the beaver?
Yeah, remember that pet peeve of mine, rambly spoken word? Guess what? Let's put it all over this awful electronic noise because why not? Oh, and that's not all. Time to pitch shift it, baby! God, I hate it. A friend called this fun style core, and they're not wrong, are they? And I'm not even gonna bother with the words themselves because who really cares?
Baby's taking a shower and refused to use shower. Cousins with blue was flooding the bathroom. The only thing that
The city ticks me off because it's like trying to be artsy and avant-garde or whatever, but what it really is just amateur. It's not just bad in a really obvious way like December was, it's bad in the way that thinks it's making high art. It's pretentious. And it's not even that artsy, it's just two different songs that are terrible in their own rights, loosely stitched together into an even worse one. Trash. Next. Okay, this song wasn't originally in the ranking proper, but due to reasons, I had to add another song on the list, and I don't really care about the song itself, so I'm just gonna use it as a jumping off point for a somewhat related rant. This sucks. It sucks that this is what metalcore has become as a genre. Any semblance of tunefulness is just gone, replaced with the same goddamn down-tuned chugging that all sounds exactly the same. God, Gen ruined so many genres. Like, y'all, I've heard way too much metal that sounds exactly like Holy Roller. I am way too old for this. Though, to be fair, so are these guys. Most of them are older than me. To Spiritbox's credit, that Amen break bit is kinda funny, but that's really it. The only interesting moment in this 3-minute song. The band says they wrote this as their angry palate cleanser, which, yeah, I guess, but calling it ridiculous? What? This is just what your genre is now, guys. It's painfully normal. Granted, I didn't care for the rest of the album's pop metal sound on the whole. It's not particularly distinct from what Periphery were doing a decade ago, and Devin Townsend did it better all the way back in 2009, so like, I'm just bored, y'all. It's boring. I'm sad. Go stream Actor Observer or something, I don't know. I've come to make an announcement. Man, I wish this was better.
So it's a bit of an enigma. I need to draw the gold out of my greed.
I don't really keep up with Snapcube's channel. I've watched a few of their real-time fan dubs, and that's about it. But I was intrigued by this being a musical side venture of Penny's, but man, it always feels awkward to trash on other YouTubers, even ones way more popular than me, but Enigma is just kind of bleh.
I'd like to have more than I've got.
For starters, Penny's not a bad singer, but she's not a particularly emotive one, and it's pretty clear she doesn't have a very wide range. One line sung high towards the end, but otherwise keeping to a safe, flat middle range, and it's just not very melodically interesting. The real letdown though is the production. That piano tone, man, why? It's shrill and thin, it just sounds bad, and the limp underweight percussion isn't doing it any favors either. The writing's also a bit vague. I could read it as trying to grapple with burnout, or I could read it as post-breakup angst, but neither seems to fully fit, and without much in the way of detail, it's emotional mush I struggle to connect with. This feels mean to say, but there's a, like, fakeness to it. It just doesn't sound like a real song. Honestly, I feel that way about a lot of music that comes out of gaming YouTube.
at the desk look like a hoarder, surrounded by some big blue border. I just want to break the mold tonight.
You can tell these songs are made by people who don't really know a ton about music production and don't really care enough to learn. And I'm not saying I do either, but I ain't the one making music here. Obviously, this doesn't happen within every YouTube circle. Hell, one of my favorite songs ever was masterminded by a YouTuber. Nor is this problem exclusive to gaming YouTube, but it feels especially prevalent there. Like, I don't mean to knock on YouTuber music too hard or on Penny herself, and I don't think Enigma is bad, but between the combination of very audibly cheap production, vocals that are clearly not well trained, and mixing that's just not balanced right at all, well, if you don't at least put in the effort to polish up all those rough edges, it ends up feeling like your heart's not really in it, you know? Maybe that's why this sounds so hollow to me.
You don't ever hit me.
Well, I'll give Hit Me Up credit for one thing. It's reminded me that LMI is very British. Not that it's super evident from Ella's singing, but on the other hand, Chip is not subtly British.
Tell me where you think you're going. Helped you know yourself, you know it.
Where their back and forth dialogue paints a picture of a broken relationship, Chip losing Ella simply due to never really paying her much mind and, by his own admission, being kind of a prick, yet still expects her to come back to him in the end. And then the bridge implies that she feels the same way, and oh, okay, look, this relationship dynamic doesn't work because the whole thing feels very one-sided.
All the same, I can see myself falling.
For one, this is clearly the LMI show. Chip featuring LMI, who are you trying to fool here? Ella takes up every chorus and the bridge, whereas Chip's contributions amount to like a minute of this 5-minute track. And it's also pretty obvious who's in the wrong, who's in the right, and what should happen here, yet it's written as a male power fantasy where of course she'll come back to him in the end, and you know, that just doesn't sit right with me.
Why you think I get nervous?
Beyond that, all the song has is vibes. It's slow and sludgy, it's way too long, but at least it's got vibes, it's a pleasant enough listen. LMI is a solid performer, Chip is, it's nice enough background music if you're not actively thinking about it, but I've heard so much better in this lane, and this really isn't that special.
Hey, you real piss, baby.
Hey, what's up? Given how kind I was to Violet Ponia's Cutie Marks, you'd expect I'd also love this, but I'm starting to get the sense Cutie Marks was the exception to the rule in regards to my feelings on Hyperpop. I don't care for 100 Gex, I still don't quite get Sophie, I haven't been impressed by anything I've heard from Arca, and this is like the Hyperpop song, at least from a cultural standpoint. So if I think Money Machine is only just alright, then yeah, this genre's probably not for me.
Tell me what to do, I've been trying to go to bed. I've been up for days, been trying to get it right.
Like, it's a good meme, I'm very amused by Money Machine. It's catchy, it sticks in the brain, it's abrasive but not off-putting, it's certainly memorable, and I respect what it's doing, but, well, it kinda just feels wacky for wackiness' sake, and I gotta say it, those synth guitars just sound weak, there's no punch to them, and as a result, the song can't hit as hard as it wants to. And while it's a good meme, well, it exists more as a meme than an actual song to me. Glad it exists, but god, I'm beyond tired of it. As I said earlier, I curated this set of 50 songs based on what I found most interesting to cover, but that 50th spot ended up being the hardest to fill, and the song that filled it necessarily ended up being, well, the least interesting of them all, hence why it's down this low. And that's not to say I don't like it, it's pretty neat. It's cool to hear pre-US crossover BTS songs, i.e. the kind of song that made them popular in the first place. And yeah, Trivia Love sounds a lot less artificial than their crossover hits. Lush piano, strings, and horns paired with a really slick trap skitter, which, yeah, this ends up being more of a hip-hop song than a pop one, really. And it's based on a clever play on words, specifically how live and love sounds similar in English, and then tying that to how the Korean words for human and love also sound strikingly similar. It's a cute little gimmick, and it makes for a cute little song. It lacks for any particularly strong melody or hook, that's the main reason why it's not doing a ton for me, but it's still a pleasant tune all the same, just competition here was stiff, y'all. So, is this what the kids call a hot take?
Baby, can you move around the rhythm so we can get with and jump around and get us a rock and roll round?
I've just never really been that wild for electro swing. Like, I've known Lone Digger for a while, and I mean, yeah, it's fun enough. Lots of energy, dance songs having horns is always fun to hear. The instrumental break is pretty cool, but I don't know, it just isn't quite my type of fun. And the chorus is really obnoxious too.
Down, down, body, body, coming with the super hottie, let's go. Let's go, hello, baby.
It's like Cher Lloyd on the One Tree Back pre-chorus levels of bratty, except not on purpose. Very yelpy and annoying, just don't care for it at all. And not that this kind of song needed depth, but, well, it's a dancey song about dancing. It's got the right energy for that, but it's just not an energy I really feel. It certainly doesn't make me want to get up and dance. I don't know, this genre just isn't for me, and I don't really feel like I'm missing out on much either. And speaking of dance music that doesn't quite do it for me, the most striking thing about Afraid to Feel is its tempo changes. The way it'll slow down for the verses and then kick back into gear at the chorus to make it feel exhilarating each time it hits. That's a neat little trick. At least the first few times you hear it. But that's like the song's only notable quality, and even at less than 3 minutes, I find it getting stale by the end. The groove itself is solid stuff, but like, man, you know what? I am so goddamn tired of new disco. It's become one of the go-to pop and dance sounds these past few years, and while at its core there's a ton to like about the sound, it's rare that any of these songs do anything really fresh or interesting with a sound that Dua Lipa didn't already nail 3 years ago. I'll give them credit for also mixing in house sounds, which, well, okay, the UK charts are similarly oversaturated with, but the US charts don't have much of it. So it's not bargain barrel new disco, but it's basically the bare minimum of both new disco and house, and, well, Beyonce did both better on Renaissance. Maybe that's why that album landed for me. It's dance music not adhering to current trends, mostly. Anyways, yeah, the novelty of this one wore off pretty fast, but it's still solid enough. Right, so when I mentioned how Echo by Starset was so uninteresting that it made me want to include another song instead, well, here it is. Man, imagine being Spirit Box and getting outdone by a random My Little Pony artist. Like, okay, Constellations isn't particularly special for this random melodic metalcore. Solid riffs, solid vocals, good energy throughout, and while I'm generally not a fan of synth integration in core genres, it's handled well enough here. But there's not much else going for it beyond raw competence, and when I've heard so many songs exactly like it, yeah, that's not enough. The same shade. And I cannot stress this enough, just because I like one MLP artist doesn't mean I'm necessarily biased to like others by association. Plus, I feel like the fandom's music is a lot more interesting when it's writing its own stories rather than building on existing lore, whereas this song... Well, it's a character exploration of Trixie who, okay, full stop, I have to know. What is it about Trixie in particular that attracts so many MLP fans and especially the trans gals to her? Well, right, that answers that, huh? Anyways, yeah, this is solid enough, but I can't say I'm interested in hearing more. Caprice for If is like ascended video game music. Chaotic and flashy, which makes it immediately attention-grabbing, but I'm not sure that translates to replayability or actual quality. Like, it's the kind of song that seems really cool until you've heard it a few times and realize that none of it sticks. It's too abrasive, shoots off into too many random directions. It sounds cool in the moment, but the magic wears off more and more with every listen. And part of me wonders, would this hit harder if it wasn't sticking to chiptune sound fonts? Like, full disclosure, I'm not wild for chiptune, but man, imagining this with synths that have more oomph to them, or more texture for the calmer bits. I don't think it'd fix the inherent compositional problems, but it'd at least help. Like, there are some really cool moments here. And the song definitely has the feel of like, okay, so you know how rhythm games tend to get more and more ridiculous the longer the community sticks around? To the point where like, normal songs are too easy, so the community has to create their own songs to provide the challenge that top level players want? Yeah, it feels like one of those, and I know I'm right because... Yeah, that I can find 2 different games this obscure chiptune track has been charted in, both with utterly absurd charts, kinda says it all. Like, this is certainly something you can listen to on its own, but it feels more at home in the context of a rhythm game as a bonkers hard chart. So, I'm not sure I'm even meant to listen to it like a normal song, but it's fine enough as one, yeah.
You can run,
but no can hide.
when worlds collide.
Wait, no, that's not right. Like, gonna be real, before I heard When Worlds Collide, I thought it was a SpongeBob song. Though, I do recognize this from somewhere. Can't quite pin down where, though. Even more surprising than that is how much I actually like this Buttest of Butt rock. Not that I like it that much, but I'll be damned if it doesn't at least rock pretty damn hard.
Now who's a liar and who is the devil?
And it's supposedly about social classes from the viewpoint of the oppressive upper classes, but that doesn't feel quite right to me. I get more of a vibe of like an advanced AI trying to take over humanity. I mean, there's definitely an artificial sound to it with all the industrial tones creeping in around the edges, so. Having said that, yeah, there's a sweaty, gruff, masculine energy to this that I find kind of off-putting for some mysterious reason I can't quite pin down. The riffs and grooves are pretty fun though, and if I had to have exactly one song like this in my life, this certainly wouldn't be a bad pick, but it's not one I'm gonna be returning to either. You know, here's a question I've never asked myself. What are the Hold On We're Going Home guys doing nowadays? And the answer is trying to beat the Weeknd, apparently. Bright 80s synth-pop production paired with a very specific high-pitched and kind of nasal quality to the vocals. Yeah, Summer Rain really could pass for like a scrapped After Hours demo or something. It's got some of the same charm. It's got some decent hooks, it's pretty colorful, it's solid stuff, but like, find your own lane, my dudes.
The longer you stay, the more I escape.
More than that, there's something shrill about it, holding it back. I think that's just a result of all the auto-tune reverb and whatever other effects piled on Majid's voice that almost make him sound inhuman. And on top of that, it's not particularly deep, just a pretty standard love song. And even for a 3-minute pop song, it's rather repetitive too. Beyond that, not really much to say about it. I think I understand now why I haven't heard anything from these guys in like a decade.
But ask, I respond with, I'm not lonely, I'm just alone. They say I'm trapped in my mind, you don't know me, I'm just at home.
This kind of depression rap can be kind of hit or miss for me, but I think Just Alone hits more than it misses, mostly in sound though. I'm not really impressed by any of these bars, nor am I a huge fan of his voice, but the groove and flow are pretty on point, the piano and string-driven production is pleasant, the melodic hooks are strong, and it's just kind of a jam. Also, pretty cool sample flip there, yeah. And like, even if the words themselves don't really wow me, there's something relatable to their sense of loneliness. I'm not lonely, I'm just alone has been a hell of a mood these past few years. I like this one, I really do, but there's not a ton else I can say about it, and the competition was stiff, man. Oh hey, more electro swing.
And break his neck, 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 neck. I said, ooh, I got nothing but a heartache.
Already said my piece on this genre as a whole, but frankly, Shoot 'Em Down feels closer to just swing, with only a few light electronic touches around the edges. Take out those touches, lower the fidelity, and you could probably pass it off as a hidden gem from the late 1920s. Alice Francis fits the aesthetic perfectly. She has a lot of personality as a singer. It's a fun little jam, but yeah, okay, this is here more for its, interesting lyrics.
I want to break him bone for bone, want to stab him all night long.
Oh yeah, it's a violent little revenge fantasy about the guy who cheated on her and broke her heart like it was nothing. Or maybe it isn't a fantasy. Maybe she's actually on her way to murder him right now. I certainly believe it, given how much of her heart and soul she's pouring into every bloodthirsty threat. Though there's an underlying humorous tone to it that suggests that, yeah, probably not. But like, imagine though. I wanna believe.
Eye for eye and tooth for tooth. You try to melt my heart, let loose.
If I have any gripes, God, some of this writing is really awkward and stilted. Every extra word or weird turn of phrase sounds like a desperate attempt to fill in the syllables of a line, and it's really noticeable, but it's a minor gripe. The style's still not quite for me, sure, but that doesn't stop this one from being a horrifically good time. Okay, yeah, a System of a Down song about Charles Manson is almost too obvious, huh?
Passing by, you don't care about how I feel, I don't feel it anymore.
And ATWA sounds about how you'd expect a System of a Down song about Charles Manson to sound. There's a sinister air to the verses that erupts into an explosive anger in the chorus. Surge's distinctive personality usually comes off as a little bit unhinged to begin with, so he nails it here. The whole song comes together really well, and I'm not really sure what to do with it.
Not so pretty.
For one, by their standards, the hooks aren't particularly sticky and the riffs don't really rock that hard, but also, well, the concept itself is interesting, but it creates an obvious problem. I am not at all interested in empathizing with Charles friggin' Manson, so what else does the song have? It doesn't really crush, it's not particularly fun, it's just kinda there. Like, it's an interesting character piece, I enjoy it fine enough, but I don't really feel strongly about it. it keeps happening.
Show me how you do that trick, the one that makes me scream.
I like The Cure, I really do, or at least I like Disintegration. With its gothic post-punk sound and lush instrumentation, it's super cool stuff. Just Like Heaven is not that. Like, there's an organic warmth to this one between the jangly guitars and sparkling synths. It's nice, but it's such a non-presence compared to their darker, gloomier, more atmospheric stuff I already know and love.
Soft and only you, lost and lonely.
There's a love-struck earnestness here in both the sound and lyrics that's really well executed, and I can see that really landing for most people, but I regret to inform you that, yeah. Also, for a pop song, it's kinda lacking for a strong hook. The closest it gets is that guitar motif, but it's not that memorable on its own. Again, I like this, but I don't know, if I want a love song from The Cure, I'd rather just go listen to Pictures of You. Well, this certainly is a list of names that could conceivably make a song together, yep.
So every day I spend my time drinking wine, feeling fine.
Every day is confusing. You have both Rod Stewart and Miguel here to sing the same hook twice in a row. There's a random awkward tempo shift that makes the second verse feel like it's pulled from an entirely different song. But like, all the disparate parts are at least pretty solid. The hook is instantly memorable and really damn sticky, the organ-drenched production is cool as hell, and I do get what A$AP Rocky's going for, trying to sell scumbag swagger and make it sound effortless. Like a laid-back douchebag who knows he's the top of the game, but he doesn't fully pull it off, and, my man, you sure about this one?
I look so fucking good, most likes are fucking.
Yikes, like, even if you're trying to play the bad guy, set some limits, man. Even besides that one questionable line, it's a bit of a mess, and definitely not a good use of your Miguel either, but it's kinda a vibe in its own weird way. It's cool. I really hate that this is a recurring trend in my videos. I will give Kate Bush this. For as much as I struggle to love her music, she's always incredibly fascinating. Like, who else is gonna write a wonky art pop tune that bounces between 5/8 and 6/8 time signatures, where half the percussion was created by swinging bamboo canes through the air? Like, what? Who even thinks of that? Sat in Your Lap is an utterly one-of-a-kind song, and I'm glad it's in my life if nothing else. On the other hand, well, the thing about every other Kate Bush song I've covered is that, for all my frustrations with them, they all had killer hooks, and Sat in Your Lap just doesn't. It's definitely memorable, Bush's shrieks stick in the mind, but it's not something I want to sing along to, you know? And while the lyrics are, again, interesting, musing on man's desire for knowledge conflicting with the refusal to actually sink in the time and effort it takes to acquire that knowledge, a human contradiction I can absolutely relate to, it's more a really makes you think concept than something that hits emotionally. It's just cool. The song is very cool, but it's not something I see myself returning to. Yeah, I think that's where I stand on it. Well, yep, Cherry Wave certainly is a Deftones song, alright. Like, I'm not gonna pretend I'm wild for this brand of alt metal. I generally enjoy it fine enough, but nothing about the sound tends to stand out for me, and yep, that's pretty much true of this one as well. Lush guitar textures, a dreamy atmosphere, a solid hook, it's a pleasant enough song. I like the sound, but I've heard it done better, including, ooh, foreshadowing, later in this very ranking. The one moment that really stands out to me is some pretty cool drumming on the bridge that really kicks the song into gear, though what it leads to is the chorus again, with no significant changes, so that was kind of a waste, huh? And I have absolutely no thoughts about the lyrics either. It's just a solid tune to get lost in the moment, but not one that I tend to remember much after. So a Deftones song, yep.
Give me now, hey, this time I'm ready for.
Some songs give me a ton to analyze, tangents to go off on, just a lot to say in general. And then there's songs like Tequila Shots that can be summed up in one sentence. This is a hell of a vibe. Spacey synths paired with a bumping trap beat and Cudi's kind of endearingly weak singing. There's a somewhat spooky alien vibe to the atmosphere that's really cool. It's a great late night mood.
I'm not just some sad dude, you can see my life, how I grew, I want serenity.
Cudi's basically just sing-rapping about his struggles with mental health, so yes, add another depression rap to the tally, and it's not particularly compelling for what it is, but again, I hardly care when the flow is this smooth and the words all sound nice the way they're sung. It's the kind of song where you don't really need to think about it too hard to get it, you know? Just kind of vibes. It's catchy, I dig it. If you thought that I was done underrating beloved 80s artists after both The Cure and Kate Bush, then, woo boy, I've got some bad news for you. If you heard Master of Puppets for the first time last year, I get it, I really do. Must have been mind-blowing stuff to your virgin ears. But, I'm over 15 years of metalhead now, and this is just so passé. And look, I get it, that intro, it's absolutely killer. Top tier thrash metal, great riffing that really builds up hype. The chorus slays too, yelling, "Master! Master!" Along to it is practically a national pastime, and there's that beautiful bridge too. It's a multifaceted thrash metal magnum opus, a headbanger for the ages. And I mean, I like a good headbanger as much as anyone, but what am I supposed to do with the verses? Head contort? Like, yeah, let's not bury the lead. This riff sucks. It's choppy, it's monotonous, and just doesn't rock. It's like the song pauses to catch its breath every 5 seconds. I don't know, I just can't stand it, man. And it ruins other parts of the song, too. Kirk Hammett is a master of the melodic shred. I know he could turn on a good solo, but because he's playing over that ugly verse riff, it just doesn't work, man. The riff plays the song out, too, leading to a particularly sour last minute. And I have to ask, why? Why is the riff like that? But I think I know why. Hold my breath as I wish for death. See, Master of Puppets is this, like, weird transitional album in between their thrashier roots and the more progressive songwriting of Injustice for All, where they're trying to get to that point, but just haven't quite nailed it down yet. So what happens is you get songs skewing longer, you get songs with more ambitious song structures, you get the multifaceted instrumental of Orion, and you get weird time signature experiments like the Master of Puppets verse riff that just doesn't work. Like, take its most obvious Ride the Lightning counterpart. See, that's a headbanger. It's a simpler riff, sure, but it goes so much harder. Love this riff and this song, which also brings into focus another problem, where it feels like Metallica bought into an attitude of, gotta be more metal across Master of Puppets, so the riffs are less colorful, the melody is less pronounced, and most frustratingly, the warm, sparkling acoustics all over Ride the Lightning get replaced with colder electric guitars that just plain sound worse. And while the problem isn't as pronounced on Master of Puppets as it is on, say, Sanitarium, it does still persist. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't be going on a long tangent about my complicated feelings towards this song and this album in the middle of a big, long ranking video, but like, this is my scene, man. I mean, kinda. Thrash metal's not really my jam, though Metallica have plenty of bangers, so I digress. Master of Puppets in particular, though, frustrates me because, yeah, there's spots where it really works, and it's definitely a good song. I just wish it was, you know, better. Gay. That's it, that's the segment.
Cause you say it like springtime, short days, long nights.
I've known of Troye Sivan for a while, but it wasn't until recently that I actually heard any of his music, and yeah, pretty good queer alt pop. We love to see it. Lucky Strike in particular is nice. Kinda catchy tune, kinda fun groove, kinda cozy atmosphere. It's a cute little love song that just happens to be about boys who love other boys, which, like, hell yeah, dudes.
Breathe me in, exhale slow.
I think if I had any nitpicks, Sivan sounds kinda breathy in a way that tends to irritate me after a while, but in small doses, I don't really care. The song also isn't particularly interested in punching above what it is, a silly love song, but like, what's wrong with that? It's just a pleasant little tune, the kind of junk food pop I'll never complain about. Ooh, this one's unfortunate because, well, first impressions were pretty strong. A cool mix of glitch pop, vaporwave, and plunderphonics. In this case, samples from the Tasha Thomas, Katy Perry, and the Final Fantasy XIV soundtrack, amongst others. Anyways, yeah, it was a cool and unique sound unlike anything else I'd heard. And then Dark Life dropped, and it's just a much better, much more refined take on the sound that kinda retroactively tarnished this one for me. Oops. Like, not that Tell Me Your Secret doesn't have its own cool ideas. For one, it's got the perfect element to help me get into this kind of glitchy sound. Melodies, strong ones. Sampled ones, sure, but strong ones nonetheless. There's also a frantic energy in the first half as the fragmented vocals and whirring electronics clash with a steady groove, and a slow and ominous build in the second half that drives home a feeling of mounting desperation. Yeah, it is still really damn cool, and that this practical collage of sounds can make me feel something is a feat in of itself.
But I always pay your whiskey, my headache.
I've already touched upon 29 Written in Stone a few times before, and I can't overstate enough that the album works better as a whole, giving a wide-angle view of her relationship and the suffering it caused her, but even in pieces, it's still damn good. Your Drink and My Problem is a deep dive into her ex's swimming pools of liquor, a guy who was more in love with the bottle than he ever was with her.
You lied on my face, not an ounce of shame in your walk.
Need I remind you, this same guy wrote Whiskey and Rain about their breakup, which kinda proving your point there, dude. Barely even know the guy, but even I can see the signs. And Pierce is a sharp as hell writer, too. The lyrics have a ton of bitter bite to them. It's absolutely vicious stuff. But, the tune itself is just fine. Doesn't really do much for me, honestly. Feels a bit too slow and underweight. I respect the hell out of this one, but I don't quite feel it either. I feel like every time I cover Vocaloid, it always comes with a caveat. I mean, I'll freely admit, Vocaloid can be hit or miss for me. Sometimes it works, sometimes the tinny shrillness of the vocals hits my ears wrong. Here, I think it kinda works on the basis that, well, Bitter Choco Decoration is not really trying to be smooth or pristine. It's a weird song with wonky melodies and a stumbling groove. There's already something uncanny about it, so yeah, no, Vocaloid fits right in. I'd still like the vocals more if they were, you know, actually sung though, which... Yeah, there's that caveat. That version exists, and was the one I was originally listening to until the requester informed me they meant the original, not the self-cover, which, well, to be blunt, I like this version more. Not much else really changes other than it being in a different key, and I just straight up prefer the vocals here, but okay, both versions are good, so whatever, let's talk about the original. I mean, it is a weird song, but it's mostly because of that wonky recorder that plays throughout. That admittedly felt like it stood out a bit too much. It's a very shrill element that's kind of just sitting there for like half the song, but it ended up kind of working for me, and the rest of the song is just a hell of a bop, so. Strong hooks, tons of energy, it's a sweet listen even with those bitter undertones. And its sound plays into his themes pretty well, too. Where Syoto is expressing frustration at trying to fit in, to be quote-unquote normal like everyone else, and it's not really working either, because being normal is boring, and often, well, a lie. Who the hell is normal? And I've seen interpretations that it's about living with autism in an holistic world, which, well, I can't speak from experience there, but yeah, that scans, and I can see how a lot of people would see themselves in this song. Pair that with a cool and unique tune, and yeah, thumbs up from me.
'Cause a few hearts might get hurt, so come on girls, let's go down where the boys like to hang around.
I really respect the hell out of songs like this, where they know what they want to be, they're exactly that one thing, and they do that one thing really well. This is an uncomplicated, butt-whooping rollicker of a rocker, and it's just fun as hell. Sometimes that's enough. Like, they do kinda beat that one guitar like to death, and there's not really anything to this beyond it being hella cool, but who am I to ask for more anyways?
A top shelf bottle of whiskey.
Also, we need more women in country. Not just that, we need more black women in country. Like, usually I'd feel weird making a big deal out of race like this, but country is kinda, you know, like that. So a group like Chapel Hart showing this much confidence and swagger is a win stacked upon a win, and if they blow up the way they deserve to, that'd complete the hat trick. Plus, the shoutouts to other women in country are awesome. Hell yeah, girls. Great little palate cleanser as we pass the halfway point of this ranking.
Now you must acquire a taste for freeform jazz.
an obscure jazz bassoonist who I can find basically no information on other than that they passed away in 2020. That's what we in the business call following the assignment to a T. And yeah, Brazilian Love Song is smooth as hell. Just very pleasant to listen to. You could even call it easy listening, It's always felt weird that a genre as technical as jazz tends to get lumped in with easy listening, but I do kinda get why. I mean, let's be blunt, this isn't as wild or transgressive as jazz was at its inception, nor is it trying to be. It does have a small twist in that the Brazilian aspect of the song seems to be by way of its rather Latin-influenced percussion, which does give it just that little bit of flavor to stand out, but it's mostly something I want to just turn off my brain and listen to, more than, you know, actually talk about. Which, yeah, I do kind of have a tenuous relationship with jazz thinking about it. Like, I definitely enjoy it in small doses, but 20-30 minutes of this would probably start to wear on me. I don't know, I tend to like jazz influence more than pure jazz itself. Thank You Scientist and their jazz-inflected style of poppy prog rock springs to mind, especially considering I tend to find their instrumental tracks their least interesting. Give me pieces of jazz accentuating another genre and I love it, but just the jazz on its own? Yeah, it's cool enough, but not something I'd seek out on my own. This isn't really a knock against this song in particular, more just a general musing, but hey, now's as good a time as any to bring it up. But yeah, no, this is a nice little tune. Requester gets a solid A from me. Good work. Damn.
Look, fuck rap, I'm a street legend. Block love me with a deep reverence. I was birthed in a C-section.
Want to clear up right away that the reason Deep Reverence isn't higher is that it doesn't quite do it for me sound-wise. The beat's solid and has decent atmosphere, both rappers have solid flows, but nothing about it particularly stands out, and, well, I kinda hate that I hear it, but Nipsey sounds uncomfortably similar to Mac Miller to me. He doesn't sound bad, but I was never wowed from Mac's voice, and Nipsey's falls into similar territory for me. So it's a 6 out of 10 tune, but let's be real, we're here for the content.
And I got pressure on me. 7 days a week is game 7 on me.
Where, after a composed, confidently delivered verse from the late Nipsey Hussle, we switch over to Big Sean, whose verse sounds off the cuff, unfocused, anxious even. The contrast is immediate and makes it clear how shaken he was by Nipsey's death, and there's something poignant to his musings.
With a Glock 17 right on the side of me. Look, I ain't think I had a thought of suicide in me until life showed me all these different sides of me.
Where he starts by squashing a years-long beef with Kendrick Lamar, followed by his reflections on the death all around him. From Nipsey and gang violence to a child he lost due to miscarriage, before falling into a depressive spiral that culminates in suicidal thoughts. It's, well, a lot. And there's way more here than I have room to cover, too. But it's not something that hits on every listen for me either. When it does, though, damn. So, I did try to get into Tool back in high school. Lateral Less is a pretty cool album. It gets a thumbs up from me. I never got much into them beyond that, or to their more accessible sister band, A Perfect Circle, but I have spun 13 Step at least a few times, so I was familiar with Pet before this ranking. It's one of the heavier cuts off that album too, and probably better off for it.
They don't give a fuck about you like I do.
Pet's biggest strength is its creepy, almost demented atmosphere, where the speaker is overprotective to the point of manipulation, like a mother who doesn't want their child to learn about, well, anything beyond the perfect little world she's crafted for them. It's intentionally unsettling, especially when you know this is something that actually happens in real life. Kinda reminds me of the Paper Chases Wait Till I Get My Hands on You. Check out my video on them while you're here, by the way. Though I don't think the tune itself is quite as good. It's got a big crushing riff that's very alt-metal in its sludginess, paired with some really harsh guitar leads, and that's contrasted with the cleaner moments that create the spooky atmosphere the song's aiming for. There's also a big soaring rock chorus that kinda creates some tonal dissonance, though I suspect that's on purpose. It's a cool tune, even if it doesn't really punch above my rather low expectations for this band, but it's a compelling listen if nothing else.
I'm one of those witches, babe. I'm one of those witches, babe.
Witches is like the defining middle of the good tier song. A song with no real notable qualities about it, nothing that pushes it to greatness, but like, it's still really damn good, you know? It's got a really pleasant, dreamy indie pop vibe. Alice Phoebe Lou has a nice voice and she complements the song well. It's mildly catchy without being insufferable, it's just nice to listen to.
Let's share a few dirty habits.
There's a cute love-struck vibe to the song, though as ever, yeah, it can't really do much for me on that front, but damned if I don't love it anyways. I really can't imagine not wanting to listen to this, but it also doesn't give me much to say. Song's just good, yo. And here's an example of how the right song at the right time can hit better than it has any right to. Between my recent Dance Dance Revolution obsession and really getting into Beyonce's renaissance, yeah, I think I'm finally starting to get dance music, so bam. Here's a 7-minute EDM song from Swedish House Mafia that I like way more than I expected to. Why? Well, that's a good question. I guess for one, Greyhound doesn't really have any of the trappings a lot of the big popular EDM of its era tended to have. Like, for one, the song's main motif has a fairly complex rhythm that I just find compelling. The kind that'd make for a good DDR song, funnily enough. There's also just enough of an ebb and flow to the song's dynamics, and it never quite devolves into a blaring wall of noise, either, even with its somewhat abrasive elements. Nor is there any drop to speak of, unless we want to count 80% of the song as a drop. Plus, it's just plain catchy. At 7 minutes, it can wear out its welcome if you try and listen to it like a normal song, but again, this is dance music. It's designed to keep you moving. Don't think too hard about how little actual substance there is, don't worry about how much it sprawls, that's not the point. It accomplishes its goal, being fun to groove along to, and it's just a cool tune too. Oh cool, like Sega?
The path is clear, though no eyes can see.
Man, 4th of 5th is some good classic prog. Yep. Tasty organs, multi-part structure, weird time signatures, and technical prowess galore. What else do I say about it? The lyrics? It's written from the point of view of a river, traveling down from its source all the way to where it meets the ocean. That's poetic, but man, it sure is what it is. A nearly 10-minute song feeling this short is refreshing? Okay, you know what? Let's back up. See, for me, a lot of classic prog falls victim to the Seinfeld effect because I've heard these sounds done elsewhere and better. Because a lot of these bands were the building blocks for progressive rock and metal going forward. And Genesis in particular, well, they were never one of the bands I was into even in my classic prog phase. And hearing 4th of 5th now, I'm kinda struggling to find much of an identity to their sound. Like Pink Floyd, psychedelic rock with tasty guitar leads, King Crimson, an abrasive edge and the feel of a jam band. Yes, groovier tunes with a lot of emphasis on bass lines. Rush, great pop sensibilities and a sparkly guitar sound. Jethro Tull, flutes, I don't actually know much Jethro Tull. Anyways, the point is, from what little I have heard from Genesis, I just can't point to the thing that makes them them. Well, in this era at least. Wonky 80s pop Genesis, that's an identity, even if I don't like it, but I digress.
Has claimed another soul.
And look, this is good. This is really good. I love me some good prog rock. Prog nerd for life right here. Nor is it really even Genesis' fault that I don't find this interesting. They had no clue that prog bands would be aping their style so heavily for the next 50 years. It's simply the burden of time, cruel and mercilessly marching forward, just like this ranking. Let's move on. You know, when I asked for weird, obscure picks, I meant a lot more obscure than Taylor Swift deep cuts, y'all. Wait, hold up, what was that artist's name? Could've fooled me, because Thanks for Leaving is a dead ringer for 1989 era Taylor, which this song predates, and okay, what's going on here? Who the hell is an Alexandra Stan, and what is she doing with a mid-tier Taylor pop cut? Like, what else has she done?
You make me this, bring me up, bring me down, babe.
Oh, okay, I kinda remember this one, yeah. Alright, anyways, the song itself. After you get past how uncannily similar to Taylor she sounds, there's not actually that much to say. It's got a good stomping groove, the chorus pops off, it all just sounds great and it's a ton of fun to listen to. And it's also, in traditional Taylor Swift fashion, a bitter breakup song.
In the picture that still sits by the fireplace, every time I have to see a little stupid face.
Or I guess post-breakup with her trying to move on, realizing all the ways this guy wronged her and how angry she should be about it, evicting her last memories of him from her heart and mind so she can start over with a clean slate. Nothing particularly noteworthy, but Taylor's got enough fire to sell it and it's just a delightful little tune. Not the best song off 1989, but I dig it. Wait, who are we talking about again? Sup, y'all ready to let the gay times roll?
Treat you like you're dead right now. I'm on your head right now.
I've always felt weird about Dead Right Now in the context of Montero, the album, because it's the one sour note in the otherwise upbeat and confident first stretch of the album. And it's sandwiched between all the big singles, which doesn't really do it any favors either, but I'd struggle to call it misplaced since, well, this is a pitch perfect lead up to Industry Baby and pretty damn good on its own, too.
2018, I was in my sister's house the whole summer. Songs wasn't doing numbers. Whole life was going under.
It's basically Lil Nas X's come-up song, where none of his friends or family really believed in him, convinced his life would be a downward spiral doomed to end in tragedy, until it didn't. And now that he's living the pop star life, everyone who berated him for following his dreams suddenly wants to be his best friend, or more likely his wallet's best friend. To which Nas is straight up shoving it back in their faces and telling them to piss off, and yeah, that's some good catharsis, man.
You know you never used to call. Keep it that way now.
It all works because it comes from a believable place, and on top of that, it's just a satisfying diss towards everyone trying to mooch off his fame. But the tune itself is also pretty cool too. Rather low-key sound with muffled, ominous horns and an atmospheric trap beat that gives Nas room to bounce between rap flows and pop hooks. It all comes together well, and even if it isn't one of my favorites from the album, yeah, it shouldn't go overlooked either. Any of y'all ever heard of heterosexuality? At least that's what the album is called, so never mind 0 out of 10 number 50, but actually no, this is a hell of a vibe. And also unquestionably queer, even if it's not in the text of Cold Brew specifically, which is more of a classic drinking to forget your pain song. Yeah, one that sounds like this. Granted, Shamir's drinks of choice are cold brew coffee and ginger beer, neither of which are necessarily alcoholic, and the pain in question is non-specified trauma from her past. The album and or her discography might fill in those details, though nobody is obligated to disclose their own trauma either, so I'm not gonna hold it against this song. Anyways, yeah, it's shockingly dark for what the song actually sounds like, though I don't think there's really any clash between the two either. A steady, relaxed groove paired with walls of synths and guitars, Shamir's silky smooth voice effortlessly gliding on top of it all with some really sticky melodies. It's not that unique, but it sure as hell sounds gorgeous, and yeah, okay, I'll freely admit the lyrics here don't hit that hard for me. The song's up this high mostly just on sound alone, but like, can you blame me? It's friggin' beautiful. Stay gay, do crimes, y'all. Why yes, I would like some Japanese math rock, thank you. Or at least, that's what Kokatsu makes me think of. Twinkly guitars paired with energetic and complex drums, creating this really serene yet frantic feeling. I dig the hell out of that. And this even solves my biggest issue with the genre, melodies, hooks. I need them, baby. Leo Ayeri delivers them in spades while she sings about, being in love, I think? Yeah, something here's probably getting lost in translation, but that hardly matters when the tune itself is this good. And then the song quite literally explodes. Hot damn, an absolutely stunning, soaring climax that both comes out of nowhere and yet feels like a logical extension of the first half, topped off by the chorus hook returning to tie it all together, but hell, why am I even trying to rationalize how good this is when the plain and simple answer is that it just goes the hell off? Like, I feel like playing the song for y'all just says it all, right? I don't want to talk about Kokatsu, I just want to bathe in those guitar textures, man. This one's probably gonna fly under the radar for most people, but it's absolutely worth checking out on your own time, please. And speaking of absolutely gorgeous sounding songs that came the hell out of nowhere, like, Ace Benzuelo seems to be some kind of cult act that only blew up just recently, but the song sounds really damn good, so I totally get why. Much like Kokatsu, Molly is a foreign language tune where the actual meaning of the lyrics, this time some kind of post-breakup angst, gets a bit lost in translation, and also I don't really care because this is just straight up one of the best-selling pop songs I heard in 2022, and beautiful music transcends the language barrier. Just the gorgeous soundscapes the song's able to create with nothing more than layered, reverberated vocals and dreamy synthscapes is an absolute marvel. And while Ace Benzuelo is Filipino, the melodic structures and synth tones here actually remind me a lot more of K-pop, but like if the TikTok vibe machine was cranked all the way up. Oh, and guitar solo, woo! If I can point to one weakness, it's that unlike a lot of K-pop, I don't really find it that catchy, but I always enjoy the hell out of it whenever I do listen to it, so whatever, man. Absolutely gorgeous song. Ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, the leg, Leonard Cohen.
4 o'clock in the afternoon and I didn't feel like very much.
Oh boy, this sure is a lot. Been a while since I had to bust one of these out. Content warning, suicide. Skip to the timestamp on screen if this topic makes you uncomfortable. Anyways, Leonard Cohen is an artist I see more as like a poet, a storyteller, than a traditional musician, often using bare bones instrumentals just enough to give his voice something to bounce off of, which in Dress Rehearsal Rag's case is just acoustic guitar strumming and ominous swells of strings. It's simple, but it gets the job done.
That's not the electric light, my friend, that is your vision growing dim.
And like, I don't know, man, if you can keep me entirely enraptured for 6 whole minutes just on the strength of the lyrics and their delivery, then you must be doing something right. What Dress Rehearsal Rag does most effectively is building tension, tracing the thought processes of a former superstar post-fame, a fallen star if you will, taking a look at his life now, reminiscing on how much better things used to be, and always coming back to that one intrusive thought.
And then the veins stand out like highways all along your wrist, and yes, it's come to this.
Not just once either. Every time he tries to think about something else, his thoughts always circle back around to that same dark place. All because he went for a shave. It's hard not to think about the razor when it's right in front of you, you know? The tension comes from wondering, is he going to do it? You're never quite sure until the grand finale where...
And then the cameras pan, the stand-in stunt man.
No, not today, but who knows what tomorrow will bring. There's no real closure, not helped by the implications that this has happened before every day of his life for years and years now. Every morning when he goes for a shave. It's the dress rehearsal, but the actual show is yet to come, and he's rehearsed it so well that it'll surely be spectacular when it premieres.
And wasn't it a long way down?
And the writing here is so lush, layered in so much metaphor and symbolism that I'd be here all day if I tried to untangle all of it, but man, this song is simultaneously so clever and terrifying that I can't help but respect it. Probably more than I actually enjoy it. It's not a song I choose to listen to very often, but in its own way, it's probably the most intense song on this entire list. Damn. Okay, I really need something easy to talk about after how heavy that last song was. What you got for me? Yeah, that'll do. Cruising down the highway just past midnight, the city around you illuminated by neon lights. That's what Lipstick Masquerade is designed for. I personally haven't driven a car in over 5 years, so I wouldn't know, but like, this is just a hell of a bop, and my thoughts on it basically start and end there. A dark blend of synth pop and synth wave with a powerful and commanding performance from Persia. It's just good music, man. The lyrics seem to be about, a femme fatale vigilante fighting the system in a futuristic cyberpunk dystopia. You know the type. And like, yeah, that's cool and all, but I'm too busy grooving along to really care, man. My only real nitpick is that it's not as catchy as I'd like, but hell if I care when the in-the-moment listening experience is this stellar, killer tune, maybe even quite literally. Thanks, Obama. During my year-end ranking, I politely asked y'all to go check out Ethel Cain. Did you do it? No? Well, too bad. I'm making her your problem anyways. Deal with it. I mean, if you consider one of the most self-evidently good pop songs of the year a problem, sparkling, clean production, huge swells of synth guitars, and instantly memorable hook, American Teenager is just an absolute delight to listen to, which, of course, is mirrored by its lyrics.
The neighbor's brother came home in a box, but he wanted to go, so maybe it was his fault.
Just kidding, obviously not, no. American Teenager is a song about, well, the American teenager. Growing up in a country constantly telling them that they too will one day achieve their dreams, only to find that they're more likely to end up stuck in a dead-end job, broke on the streets, or just straight up dead before they even get a chance to live. And the boomers wonder why the last few generations have grown up so disillusioned and angry. What country is there to be proud of here?
Jesus, if you're there, why do I feel alone in this room?
And religion underlines Ethel's worldview, blind faith that a higher power will come to save her, even though they've never seemed to have saved anyone else. It's just a lot, man. Admittedly, its message isn't something that hits that hard for me, but the shiny happy pop song is wrapped up in sure does. It's just all around strong without ever quite feeling exceptional, but who am I to scoff at sheer quality? Anyways, trans rights, which on that note, whoa, would you look at that? It's time for a My Little Pony jump scare.
The frailty of the storyteller lies not in design.
Last year, when I wrote an entire video essay about Violet Pony's cutie marks, I didn't really get many chances to talk about, like, the music itself, so what better time to remedy that than with a 7-minute progressive pop opus? Like, God, I've Still Got Something to Teach You is just one of the most gorgeously produced songs I've heard in ever, maybe? Such lush soundscapes created by, hell, too many different instruments to even count. With enough peaks and valleys to keep the song flowing, it's breathtaking. And I wasn't kidding about the prog part either. Just listen to those organs, or the long slow burn build climaxing in a glorious, chaotic freakout. It's some of the most fresh and interesting prog I've heard in ages. Like, no offense to literal prog legends Genesis, but I personally am way more interested in this sound. Maybe it doesn't all flow that great. The aforementioned freakout kinda comes out of nowhere and awkwardly fizzles out just as abruptly. Some pony really needs to teach Violet about transitions, but whatever. Not like that stops the song from sounding great. And speaking of Violet, her vocals sound kinda rough, but in like an exasperated way that works really well with the song's content. A conversation between two of her personas interrogating, well, why she creates art, what fulfillment she's looking to find in it, rather than creating music because she feels like she has to, like it's some form of destiny, or pursuing the impossibility of perfection. It should be about creating art through self-expression, even if it's challenging, even if it's flawed. And as ever, yeah, wow do I feel that. Even if Fish Whisperer didn't hit quite as hard as Cutie Marks did for me, well, I mean, it's still really damn good, and this is absolutely one of its highlights. It's up this high more for its sound than its content, but it's a triumph on both fronts, and I can't wait to hear more from Violet. Which, well, would you look at that. Not now, though. Soon. Anyways. You know, I wasn't expecting to have 2 songs based on children's media in my top 10, and yet...
And I need a bigger office. I need a bigger chair.
Who let this Dr. Seuss soundtrack song go so hard? Or, well, I guess they didn't. I know basically nothing about the Lorax, but Big Ring was originally written to soundtrack the Tumblr Sexy Man's slow descent into villainy, and it's this big, practically prog rock opus that would have been so out of left field for a kid's movie that it would have worked really well, actually. But no, we can't have nice things, so it got replaced with the haha funny meme song. Sigh. Like, both songs do have the same narrative arc, but How Bad Can I Be simplifies it, dumbs it down, neuters its impact. And not to wax poetic about a topic I'm not really that invested in, but kids are way smarter than you think. Insulating them from the horrors of the world is more like insulting them, because they're gonna learn these things anyways and then be mad they weren't taught them sooner. Anyways, back on topic, what exactly is Big Ring about, you ask?
But the more you try to find it, the more it likes to hide.
To put it bluntly, greed. How even a small want, when attained, can spiral out of control, leading to wanting more and more, no matter the cost, no matter who or what's hurt along the way. It's about capitalism. It's about the goddamn nightmare of an economic system we've all been normalized into just accepting as natural. And the Once Lord does try to justify it as natural, too.
There is a principle of nature that most every creature knows.
It's just survival of the fittest, right? The animal with the most food gets to take all the other food from the rest of the pack, and wait, what, that's not how it works? If that happened in the wild, the other animals will tear that greedy bastard to shreds? Shh. No, believe us, the system works. Just keep pumping toxic smog into the atmosphere. Keep pouring poison into the rivers. It'll all be fine. Really, what Big Ring accomplishes so well is showing how terrifying this all is. Like, this song would have scared the bejeebers out of kids, and good, they should be scared. It's their future on the line here. It's a goddamn villain song, make it terrifying, not some goofy, almost dismissive joke of a song. Turning it into How Bad I Can Be is like if Hellfire had been reduced to a polka number. Anyways, yeah, Big Ring is awesome, and I'm glad a song like this exists, even if only as a footnote. It's very funny that this is a real thing that almost happened. I just wish it actually did. Circling back around to an earlier topic, if I wanted some classic prog that still holds up almost 50 years later. Starless is just such a cool song. Probably the best I've heard from King Crimson, and this is in fact Prog Legends King Crimson we're talking about here, so yeah. Though it starts off fairly unassuming. A languid bass and drum groove bouncing off waves of mellotron, saxophone and guitar leads wailing over them, until the vocals kick in for 3 short verses and an even shorter chorus. It's a chill tune that has this like air of finality around it, like something is coming to an end, though it's hard to say quite what. That's only the song's first act, of course, the second being almost entirely based around the looping bass line in 13/4 time, Bad Luck and Death, damn. Whilst the guitar wails away, getting progressively more discordant, the rest of the band slowly creeping back in, tension and suspense building as the song moves towards its climax. Just an absolute freak out. All hell breaks loose as everything collapses around you. The screeching guitars and manic saxophone fighting for your attention, while the bass groove from the second act and the vocal melody from the first act both sneak in to tie the whole thing together. Beautiful songcraft that. I particularly dig how throughout, the bass is the song's primary driving force and the guitars never actually play a single riff. Only leads, start to finish. I'd be hard-pressed to say I've ever heard a song this stripped down that still manages to sound this huge. It's just super cool prog. It's not a coolness I'm, like, emotionally invested in, though it does make me feel things. There's some pathos to it, but it's more the kind of song that you, like, sit back and appreciate alongside a cup of tea, if you catch my drift. Respected and enjoyed at the same time. Honestly, that I already knew this one so well may have actually heard it here. It's way more striking the first few times you hear it, but that never stops it from being super dang cool, so... Nobody Else Will Be There is serene, surreal almost. It feels like a place that doesn't exist in our world, devoid of all but the calmest, most pleasant feelings. Like stepping into a dream, only it's real life. A liminal space of a song, perhaps. A coziness that you know is transient, that could fall apart at any second, but for now, you're just enjoying the moment while it lasts. I don't know, it just sounds beautiful. Actually, there's one song it really reminds me of.
The Atlantic was born today, and I'll tell you how.
That same muffled wooden percussion paired with just absolutely gorgeous pianos. I need more songs that sound like this. Nobody Else Will Be There has the feel of a painfully earnest love song, which is something I can't quite feel because, you know, but like, I kinda do feel it, though even that feeling is transient, since the song's more of like a love song by way of a relationship that's on its way out.
Hey baby, where were you back then?
Where you're trying to find the time to be alone with your partner, to come back to the same dream, but finding the time is hard, finding the circumstances hard, and the more time you spend away from that dream, the more the seams of it unravel. There's a quiet tragedy to it, but in the rare moments you do spend together, none of it really matters because you're happy. It's nice. I don't know what else to tell you. God damn it. Content warning. Suicide. Again. Timestamp on screen. Anyways, the song.
Back when you were so upset, I called in sick from your funeral.
Your Deep Rest is less about the act of suicide itself and more about its impact on those left behind. Lead singer Christian Holden seeing the signs only in hindsight and much too late to change anything. Feeling guilty that he knew how his friend was feeling, that he could have done something to help and just didn't. A guilt so overwhelming that he can't even face his friend's death, can't bring himself to attend the funeral, can't find that closure.
Your lack of love for yourself is sapping all of us here.
Which is already a lot, but then tack on the queer subtext. You say you're trapped in your body, they diagnosed you born this way. Hard not to read that as gender dysphoric, you know? And the implications that their family didn't accept them for who they were, accused them of being selfish for simply wanting to be themselves, making it their own burden to solve rather than help in any way. Yeah, it's intense.
You said you're trapped in your body. You're getting deeper every day.
and it's all delivered through Holden's emotional rasp of a voice over a rock-solid emo rocker that turns into an absolute barn-burning belter in its final act. The kind that effortlessly leaves you an emotional wreck, as the final lines imply that he was there to witness his friend's suicide. Talk about twisting the knife. Man, I can't even imagine. It's just heartrending. So goddamn intense. Hard to say much more without feeling like I'm stepping on something personal though, so yeah, just check this one out, y'all. You know, after that last song, I think I need to lighten the mood a bit. How about we talk about something less depressing, like, I don't know, class warfare?
Are you sure? You wanna live like common people. You wanna see whatever common people see.
Scene set, a rich girl meets a working class boy and falls for him, falls for his looks. The two strike up a conversation, and before long, she asks him to show her how he lives, how the common people live. He obliges and takes her to the most mundane of everyday locales, the supermarket, asks her to pretend like she has no money, and she immediately fails, brushing it off as a joke. Brushing off the common, ever-present struggle of the average man as a joke. Common People is not only about how the rich don't understand the lives of the poor, but how they can't understand. It is impossible for them to walk a mile in the common person's shoes because they can't conceive of a life where they don't even have the money to afford basic necessities. Sure, she could try to live the lifestyle of the poor, but because she has money, because she has parents who can bail her out, she can never truly experience poverty. Not only that, but she can't even conceive why someone would choose to be poor, as if it were a lifestyle and not just reality. Because for her, it would be a choice. She sees it merely as an aesthetic instead of, you know, a way of life. And more so, she sees it as something sad, something inferior. So much so that she can't understand how people could still be happy living in poverty, be so driven and passionate. A passion that's hard to cultivate when there's no pressure, no risk, no chance of failure. An insulated worldview simply incapable of seeing the world as it is. All the while, the tune itself grows in both tempo and intensity as the narrator's mild annoyance towards this girl turns into frustration and then anger at how coldly condescending she comes off. It's an anger that's hard not to get swept up in, and the tune itself is just as captivating as its narrative too. Absurdly catchy, bright and poppy, but with a bit of an edge to it, its momentum never once letting up, just an absolute thrill ride, start to finish. God, what an awesome song. Now that's what I call praxis. Before I reveal number 4, I want to preface by saying that out of every song on this ranking, this is the one I kept wanting to listen to the most. And once I play it for you, you're going to think I'm insane. Right, so anyways... Okay, no, back up, one more preface. So, here's one of my all-time favorite songs. This is God of Love by Liturgy. It's an unassuming little number that spends most of its runtime sounding like this. It's basically an insane troll song, just pure maximalism. Yet it wraps all the way back around to being awesome because it's got an element of melody to ground it, something to elevate it beyond sheer primal brutality. It's strangely beautiful in its own way, and I feel like Happy PP song by So has exactly the same appeal. A sheer wall of electronic noise that basically sounds like your speakers having a stroke, but there's also this absurdly catchy hook by way of the vocaloid vocals that makes it surprisingly accessible. It helps that it may quite possibly be the most diverse song in this entire ranking, you know, if you have the ears to hear it. Happy Song has a shockingly wide emotional spectrum, and again, I'm being completely serious in saying that. There's the obvious anger and anxiety by way of but at the same time, the quieter moments convey sadness and fear, and from what I can make out of the lyrics, they have a sarcastic bite that makes the song kinda fun, and that's all topped off by this uplifting, almost triumphant climax. Like, it's just plain beautiful, man. That's not even getting into all the little moments and movements of the song. Did you know it ends with a key change? They somehow key changed the power drill, and the song has an underlying theme of transhumanism too, which, hi, I'm a crow, nice to meet you, caw caw. I don't know, it's a surprisingly nuanced song with one of the widest emotional ranges of any song here, but it's admittedly very easy to not notice that beyond the absurdity of it. I friggin' adore it. I mean, look at me, I'm literally a bird. Where else did you think I was gonna put this one? I love how this ranking turned out. The top 10 is a throw ride of the most obscure or off-kilter picks possible, and then also that 9-minute classic rock song that everyone and their mother knows and loves. That's so funny. And having Freebird this high is probably my most basic take like ever, but here's the secret, it really is just that good. Freebird is genuinely one of the best send-off songs ever. Explicitly about a breakup, but with such a broad scope, you could apply it to basically anything. Leaving your partner, leaving your job, leaving your town, leaving this mortal plane of existence. A gloomy yet soulful first half that gives way to an energetic, triumphant second half. What a way to go. Play this at my goddamn funeral, man. Oh, and of course, the song's most iconic feature, the guitar solo that plays out into eternity. Which, it amuses me that we've all just accepted that it's a guitar solo when Activate Annoying Music Nerd Voice. It's actually a guitar unison that occasionally breaks into a guitar duel. Not a solo. Deactivate Annoying Music Nerd Voice. Because who cares, really? It's the goddamn Freebird solo. Guitar Hero was created specifically for living out the ultimate power fantasy of playing this solo. Like, God, what more can I say? It's friggin' Freebird. In 1,000, no, 100,000 years from now, aliens are gonna come across the burnt-out husk of our planet, find the song on the last surviving Nokia phone, and instantly conclude that whoever made it must have been pretty damn cool.
And you come to me. Good morning.
The place where he inserted the blade captured me at a composition level before I even had time to think about it on a lyrical level, so let's start there. I always love this kind of slow burn build, starting from just the lone piano, guitars and woodwinds slowly creeping in, the full band bursting through the door at the chorus, and by the end there's both an entire orchestra and full choir on top of it all. It's just massive, and the melody is the intensity. Isaac Wood's powerful voice, it's a theatrical showstopper. God, what a tune.
Takes a few years, but they break bones.
All the little details of the composition are what really makes it something special, though, and likewise, the small details in the lyrics, the personal touches, are what makes them work, what makes the story feel so real. Because this is such a mundane, common scenario. How ordinary, everyday tasks like making lunch can remind us of other times in our lives, of other people, for better or worse, remind us of what we've lost.
I know you're tired.
And Wood's unhealthy coping mechanism of daydreaming that he and his partner are still together, that she'll come home any moment to soothe his anxieties, only makes him more anxious and upset, as if he's forgotten how to live without her. There's a dependency, a need that can't be fulfilled now that they're apart, even though it's implied that this relationship of dependence was a lot more toxic than his mind wants to romanticize it as.
Show me the fifth or the cadence you want me to play. Good morning.
Look, if I wax poetic about the deeper meaning of this song, much less its place in the context of the album, which for the record is also really damn great, we'd be here all day. And frankly, even a year after the fact, I feel like I still haven't been able to fully unpack this one. Yet despite that, man, it still hits hard every time. It's sad, it's tense, it's got excellent payoff, just a lot of things I love brought together to make a masterpiece. Funny to think this and the worst song in this ranking share a member, huh? Man, there's really nothing more I can say.
Save her, please just take her away.
God Went North by Nothing More is about lead singer Johnny Hawkins watching his mother die right in front of him, knowing that he's powerless to do anything about it. No use bearing the lead here, you know how I am about songs like this, and I've known this one for ages, but man, its power never really wears off, does it?
That she wishes to still be around on the day that I marry.
It's painful to watch Hawkins going through the torture of having to sit in a hospital room mere hours before his mother's life support is pulled, knowing a fixed date and time of her death, all the while hearing her talk about her regrets, about the things she still wanted, no, wants to do. God, can you even imagine? If you won't save her, please just take her is, when you think about it, an incredibly selfish sentiment. Please let her die so my own suffering can end. And yet, like with the scene the song's painted, I get it, man. It's hard. It's so goddamn hard. The tension, anxiety, and grief come through with every word, every second ticking by, as the song builds and builds until... God damn it, man. At what point am I allowed to just throw up my hands at any notion of trying to rationalize why something hits emotionally when it just so plain and simply does? That's why God But North is topping this ranking, because no other song here comes close to hitting as hard emotionally as this one. It's not the best tune here, it's not the most elegantly written, but it just hits in a way nothing else does. And the song has the good grace to end on an all too necessary cooldown, past the other side of what can really only be described as a traumatic experience, where healing can begin, even if it takes time. Because no matter what happens, no matter what life throws at you, you've got to keep holding on. God Went North by Nothing More. God damn, man. Take care of yourselves, y'all.